Hello, trivia lovers. This is the next best thing. Okay, what do you call the knee-length skirt of pleated tartan cloth? Easy one, right? The Scottish kilt. It derivative of the ancient Norse word for kijift, which means pleated. It dates back to the 16th century. What vessels carry blood away from the heart? And arteries, as opposed to, you might have said veins, but blood traveling through the arteries is responsible for delivering oxygen and nutrients to the body's cells. And then when the blood vessels that bring that oxygen depleted blood back to the heart, it's called veins. And I just realized I'm not giving you time to answer. Okay, what was the name of Barbie's boyfriend? You know this. And do you know when she was first introduced? Well, if you said the 60s, you would be right. 61 to be precise. And her boyfriend's name is Ken. And for people who come to music and poetry, you definitely know this one. What song lyrics include this line? Oh, give me land, lots of land, under starry skies above. Want me to do that again? No, I won't. Give me land, under starry skies above. And that's Don't Fence Me In. Who originally wrote it? Cole Porter. And he wrote it for a musical called Adios Argentina. But that never made it to the stage. So years later, Roy Rogers sang it in the 1944 musical Hollywood Canteen. What comic strip said a fictional U.S. Army post named Camp Swampy? I'll give you a hint. The title of the strip is the name of its main character, who is a lovable but lazy private. You know this. I'll give you another hint. The initials are B and B. Beetle Bailey. He debuted in 1950 and continues to run in newspapers today. Wow. Mort Walker created the strip for 68 years. That's incredible. After his death, his sons took it over. Wow, I like that. 68 years. And then his son, do we have any fans? I wonder if it changed much after the sons took it over. Okay, what famous African American leader of the 19th and 20th centuries founded what is now known as Tuskegee University? Well, my guess is he was book smart. Giving you a moment. That was a hint, by the way. Book smart. Booker T. Washington. He was also a political advisor to both President Roosevelt and President Taft. Good job. Which of these cities is not in South America? Not in South America. Rio de Janeiro, Johannesburg, and Buenos Aires. Yes, Johannesburg. And where is that? That's in South Africa, as opposed to South America. And it's at the very tip, at the Cape of, where they around that corner, underneath that Africa, Cape of Good Hope. And of course, Rio de Janeiro, also known as Rio, is in Brazil, and that's where they hold that wild carnival, carnival, I guess you could say it. And Buenos Aires is the capital of what? South American city. Don't cry for me. Don't cry for me. Yes, Argentina. Okay, what's that thick hair that surrounds the lion's head? The mane. Field biologists believe that the primary purpose of a lion's mane is to, what could it be? To attract female attention for the propagation of the species. So, what a nice mane he has, huh? In what 1962 movie portrayed the story of T.E. Lawrence, the English officer who united warring Arab tribes to fight the Turks during World War I? Come on, to start Peter O'Toole. We talked about this the other day. Blank of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia. Peter O'Toole starred as T.E. Lawrence, based on a true story, and he was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor in a leading role for that part. The film as a whole received 7 Oscars. That's pretty good, including Best Picture and Best Director. Best Picture and Best Director often go together, but not always. But if you have a movie, generally, not always, that has won both of those honors, those big honors, it's probably a good movie. What is found at the center of our solar system? Well, they used to say Earth, right? And if you didn't agree with that, you got in trouble. But it's the sun. The sun is a what? Supernova? Meteor, asteroid, star. It's a star composed primarily of hydrogen and helium gas. Canadian Army Doctor John McCrae wrote the poem In Flanders Fields, very famous, after the Battle of Ypres. During which war did this battle take place? World War I. That's a very famous poem. He wrote the poem in honor of his close friend and compatriot, Lieutenant Alexis Elmer, who died in the battle. What color do people commonly associate with carrots? That's a hard one, right? Want me to give you hints, even though you know it? Lucille Ball? But nowadays, they also come in different colors. You can get them purple, what else? Red, yellow, and white. And they contain antioxidants, lutein, and zeaxanthin, which help prevent age-related macular degeneration. So, eat your carrots, right? I mean, haven't you heard about eating carrots is good for your eyes? I grew up with that. And it's because of the lutein and zeaxanthin. first airing in 1932. What science fiction radio program featured a space adventurer named Buck? 1932. Want me to give you a hint? Welcome to the neighborhood. Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Anybody listen to that? This radio program ran from 1932 to 1946. Buck Rogers first appeared as a comic strip, though, in newspapers in 1929. Okay, if you don't know this, you should. What writer wrote, an English writer, wrote A Room with a View, Howard's End, and A Passage to India? D.H. Lawrence, E.M. Forster, or Virginia Woolf? I bet you're thinking Virginia Woolf, and you would be wrong. A Room with a View, Howard's End, and A Passage to India. And they've made movies out of those books, and they're wonderful movies. Passage to India, though, is a little bit hard to get, though, from like Netflix, etc. They don't care yet. Can you believe that? Anyhow, the answer is E.M. Forster. His novels often examine class differences and hypocrisy, as well as changes in the moral viewpoints heading into the 20th century. I highly recommend all those. Okay, what's Australia's smallest state? That's a mouthful. And you know, in Australia, the water goes down the drain this way. Up here, it goes down this way. But in Australia, being, of course, it's south of the equator, it goes down this way. Smallest state. Give you a hint. Oh, that little devil. Okay. The Tasmania. It's an island located off of Australia's southern coast. A large portion of the state is considered a national parkland and a World Heritage Area. Well, they don't say this, but there's a little bit of genocide going on there. Terrible, terrible. But it sure is beautiful. Which of these idioms indicates a setback? A fly in the ointment or a fly on the wall? I'll say it again, a fly in the ointment or a fly on the wall? A fly in the ointment indicates that something has spoiled an otherwise pleasant situation. To be a fly on the wall refers to the desire to observe someone or something without being noticed. Kind of a voyeuristic intent there. Okay, what's the main ingredient in tofu? The main ingredient. I'll give you a minute. You know this. Soybeans. And how do they make this? How does it go from soybeans to tofu? Because they're so different. Well, they're curdled and pressed into blocks to make tofu. And I like tofu, but it picks up whatever flavor is in that you're cooking with. So, because it doesn't have much flavor in and of itself. Okay, the periodic table of the elements. Who has memorized them? That, or the elements? Well, what does N stand for? Nitrogen. Nitrogen at room temperature is a colorless and what type of gas? Colorless and odorless. Is believed to make up 78% of what? 78% of what? Space, our atmosphere. Yes, the air that we breathe, 78% nitrogen. You think it'd be oxygen, right? Okay, who said this? One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. Who was it? You know it. Neil Armstrong. He said this now famous quote as he stepped onto the surface of the moon in 1969. The very first person on the moon. And it was important to us to be the first because the Russians made it into space first. Okay, what are the two official languages spoken in Canada? English and French. According to 2011 census, English is spoken by 57% of Canadians, while 22% speak French. Wow. So that leaves, that's 79%. What do the rest of the people speak? But only 50% of English is spoken by Canadians. That's interesting. And where do they speak French in Canada? Quebec, home to most of the native speakers. Very beautiful city. You should go to Quebec City if you ever get the chance. What two Hershey's products use the jingle? Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. You know this. I'll give you a minute. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Almond Joy has what? Yes, nuts. And Mounds don't. What device is typically mounted on top of a building and has a revolving pointer to show wind direction? You know it. You know it. We mentioned it earlier. Well, it sounded the same. A weather vane. First weather vane created by the Greek astronomer, Andronicus. That's a nice name. Andronicus, around 48 BC. And so there's vane, V-A-N-E. What's another vein? Where, as in arteries, veins brings it back to the heart. And then there's vein, V-A-I-N. Okay, we're almost out of time here. We have 1 minute left. Okay, so this will be the last one. Who was the first female co-anchor, the very first female co-anchor of a network evening news program? You know this, she was known for being a wonderful interviewer. She also had the long-standing jobs at NBC's Today Show and ABC's 2020. Yes. You got it? You got it? Barbara Walters. In the early 2000s, Walters became the highest paid news host in history. A woman, highest paid in history. yearly salary of nearly 12 million. 34 Emmys that she won as well. Thank you very much.